Remember what happened in the Old Testament. The whole nation of Israel was called into fellowship with God. The whole nation participated externally in the visible church of Israel, in the covenant community. But by the time the Old Testament draws to a close, the hope for the future was for a tenth, for a tiny remnant that would still be faithful. And then, of course, there's the danger on the other side. Sometimes we're so acutely conscious of this problem of the visible and the invisible that we even further reduce the possible number of those in the invisible church down to a dot that we require the lamp of Diogenes to discern. And we suffer from what I like to call the Elijah syndrome. Do you remember when Elijah complained to God that he was trying to be faithful in the midst of a people that were collectively unfaithful? Priests and prophets together were going in a completely different path from the prophet Elijah, until finally he laments before God, "Oh God, I and I alone am left." Huh? That's the Elijah syndrome. And God had to rebuke him and say to him, "Be careful, Elijah. I have preserved for myself 7,000 who have not bowed the knee to Baal." From the vantage point of Elijah, everywhere he looked, he saw people on their knees before Baal. He couldn't find 7, not to mention 7,000. But God knew who his people were. And so again, the point of the distinction between the visible and the invisible has to do with the state of the soul. Just this morning, I was writing the final chapter of a book that I hope will be titled, when it comes out, "The Soul's Quest for God." And I was dealing with one of the most terrifying warnings that Jesus ever gives. And that's his conclusion to the Sermon on the Mount, when he says, "Many will come to me saying, 'Lord, Lord.'" And he says, it's not everyone who says, "Lord, Lord," who will enter the kingdom, but those who do the will of his Father. And again, he says, they will come saying, "Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out devils in your name? Didn't we do many wonderful things in your name?" And Jesus said, on that day, he will look at them and say, "Depart from me. I never knew you." And I'll tell you what scares me about that. Not only that there will be some people on the final day who will come saying, not only "Lord," but "Lord, Lord." The repetition of the form of address indicates an assumption of a close, personal, intimate relationship. These aren't your Easter and Sunday visitors to the church that he's anticipating are going to come and say, "Lord, Lord." But people who suppose that they have a deep personal relationship with him. But what scares me is not that just some will, but he says many. There is a multitude, a great multitude of people who actually believe that they have a personal relationship with Christ, to whom Jesus will say on the last day, "Please leave me. I don't know your name." And they're going to protest, "But Lord, I was a preacher. I prophesied. I did miracles. I cast demons out of people. Look at my track record of the wonderful works that I have performed in the name of the church." "Please leave," he says. because they are defined as those who are workers of lawlessness. Again, they are people who say they love Christ, but refuse to keep his commandments. Now, John Calvin struggled with this distinction between the visible and the invisible, and he said, yes, the hearts of the faithful are known only to God, but it is not as if the church is to be a corporation of H.G. Wells's invisible men. Calvin said that the task, the principal task of the invisible church is to make the invisible church visible. That those who have true faith are to be a light to the world, to make their faith manifest, that we may bear witness to the Lord, whose church we are.